Good evening. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I want to tell you about a really interesting film called Simulant. We're joined by the director. She's directed, 8 or 9 feature films. It's locally produced in Canada. We got some Canadian actors. Our guest tonight is April Mullen. She's going to tell us about it. And it sounds absolutely fascinating because it is about AI in the future.
Mhm.
And a lot of us are, I think, really interested in how AI is going to change our lives. So, April Mullen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for having me here today.
Tell us a little bit about Simulant. What is it about?
So we're 5 minutes in the future. It's a lo-fi feature film and explores the themes of humanity. What makes us human? How far have we come? And what defines the soul? And how AI might sort of be immersed in our way too close for comfort future. So a simulant is actually something of perfect human form. It's a robot, a clone basically of yourself. So at the end of the day, you can download your memories and your moments into your simulant at home. And if something happens, God forbid, which, in our film, our wife, Faye, Jordana Brewster, her husband, Robbie Amell, passes away in a car accident, and she decides to bring his simulant to life. So it's basically dealing with the repercussions of guilt and the fact that she brought the simulant to life, and it's not exactly like her husband, but to everybody else, it looks identical to a human being. So it's
like a robot?
Yeah, but you would never know the difference.
That's got the memory of it's got the memory from an AI of the husband.
Yes, it has all the memories, all the moments, the small and the big are all recorded into and downloaded into Simulant. So it's, anyone who would have known the person, they're exactly the same. It's like they never left.
Is this an inspirational story or a horror story?
It's a bit of both. I mean, the ending is really shocking and really thought-provoking, leaving audiences really torn. Like, I feel like in the film, you're really rooting for the simulants and you want them to persevere. And then the ending really does a big twist on, the plot, and you really question why you were rooting for the simulants and not the humans. And it's about prejudices and all kinds of things. Like the universal appeal and universal theme is very timely.
So AI is like really big in the news, but you've been obviously working on this and planning this for a while. How did you come about this topic?
So I read the script 8 years ago, believe it or not. So ChatGPT wasn't, in existence. Nobody was really talking about it. Now it's commercial, and we can have, AI create paintings and poetry and songs and essays for us. When we were filming, that wasn't even a part of our daily routine. And now it seems to have like fully immersed and is publicly available. So a lot has changed in the 18 years from beginning when I first read it, Ex Machina, Black Mirror, all of those very much in theme, sort of low sci-fi, questions came into being. And now it's even more current than when we, were in post during the film.
How did you become a director?
I started at a very young age. My parents would say I was directing in my backyard. I would round up all the troops in the backyards. This is like at 7 years old. I would give them costumes and music, and I would put on this show, and I would charge a toonie to come out, and the parents would watch this show with music and everything. Like, the whole thing was produced. So my parents would say I was directing at the age of like 7 and never stopped, because it kind of continued throughout my whole life. But I did attend Ryerson Theatre School, left Ryerson Theatre School, and it was the huge SAG strike. And there was nothing really going on. I'm not one to wait by the phone. And my producing partner, now 15 years, and I teamed up to make Rock, Paper, Scissors, The Way of the Tosser, which was like a mock doc feature film way back in 2005, I think. And that was our first feature. And we toured that across the country, sort of like Borat style. It got, a huge cult following in Canada, and then got released by Alliance Atlantis. So our films slowly have progressed in budget level. Now they're, sold internationally. Our last one, Wander, starred Tommy Lee Jones and Aaron Eckhart. This one has, Sam Worthington, Simu Liu, Robbie Amell, Jordana Brewster. The cast are absolutely incredible. And we're really proud to be on Canadian screens, which is a feat, because we're up against, oh my gosh, John Wick 4, Super Mario Bros. So we're really proud to be on the big screen, and hope that people and Canadians come support.
And do you film in Canada?
Yes, we shot the film over 23 days in Hamilton, Ontario. And it was the dead of winter and it was in the middle of Omicron. So our whole prep process was done remotely, which was very odd. And then we came together to film with mask, goggles, testing every few hours. Sam Worthington was literally flown in from James Cameron, had his 12 days and flown back to James Cameron. It was very busy. And luckily, we were never shut down from the virus. So we are so proud to say we made it to the finish line. And there are VFX in the film, and the world in general was, very behind in terms of finishing films because of the pandemic. So we kind of put together a team from all over the globe to finish the film and the VFX in the movie.
Do you get financed by Canadian investors, by the federal government, by some of these different programs that help film production in Canada?
Yes, we did. We had the support. I mean, first we sold the US, and then we sold some international territories. Then we sold to Crave, which is a Canadian broadcaster. And then we sold to Mongrel, which is a Canadian distributor. Awesome. And then we finally got Telefilm financing, and then we got OMDC, Ontario Creates as well, and then tax credits, and then of course us producers all invested back the regular, what happens when you're passionate about making independent film in this country. But it's a big mix of those are the financiers.
Watching the Academy Awards, you get the sense that there's an acceptance of foreign films today that there may not have been in the past. Do you think that's true?
Yes, 100%. I don't think, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, just look at what's happened. And it's really exciting to see how much diversity and new voices are being heard. And it's thrilling to be a part of the movement forward, including women in film. And I'm just really excited to see what happens in the next decade.
There seem to be so many new streaming services and cable services and Apple and Amazon and Disney and whoever, all these other people that are now sort of competing with Century Fox and Warner Brothers and Disney and places like that. Is this good for entertainment or is it bad? You think about the proliferation of different ways to listen to music really harmed the producers of music and books. Is technological revolution helpful to filmmakers like you or harmful?
I think there's both sides to that argument. It's amazing that we can make things digitally and a lot more cost effective as filmmakers now. And the distribution platforms, we don't have to make 35 millimeter prints and ship them across the country on, to get them to big screens. We can make DCPs and make copies and have it there sent digitally with no postage, and it's, available. And then there's also this incredible digital platform where you now have access to, hundreds and thousands of homes, and it's downloadable in a click, which again, 20 years ago when we first started, rock, paper, scissors was, hard copies on DVDs, and we would have to have that picked up by, Blockbuster or something, close by, and then those would be shipped. And it was a lot more labor intensive, harder on the environment, and also harder to get word of mouth out there, and I think with the digital platforms, for better, for worse, because there are, critics can be harsh, and also, everybody's sort of a critic now online. There's both, but at least word of mouth in general is, and social media is, in a way a godsend, because you can get a lot more people to have awareness of independent cinema, and especially if it's good and it's popping out and people are liking it and there's a lot of buzz around it. You'll be able to click on Amazon and there it is for download. It's just like people want to see it on demand right now. And when they hear about it, it's like the flavor of the second, not the month or the week. It's like the flavor of the second. They hear about the film, they're like, oh, I want to check this out. And they need to be able to access it right away because we're sort of like impatient and there's so much stimulation to sort of stand out in a sea of big blockbusters. You have to really be able to, reach your audience immediately, because a month from there, they'll be looking at something else here. They'll never remember the title, and it becomes old news fast, just because, there's so much content being bombarded at us on a daily basis that I feel like that part's really, that's important. And I think it's helping independent cinema. on the dollar front side, just as like a filmmaker and a producer, you get a lot less, financial benefits from doing a Netflix deal because you'll never see another penny. And you used to get like a cut of box office, a cut of DVD, a cut of TV sales, but now it's sort of the window is much smaller and you don't really get a piece of any of those pies. It's kind of like the music industry is like, once you're streaming, you're kind of everywhere in this, free, illegal downloadable sites, and people sort of just get it the way they need to get it. And I don't think that's something you can stop. Hopefully your film gets big enough that you'll find a way to make your next film and you just keep making movies and creating, and you do it because you love it and not necessarily for the bottom line.
What's the dream for you? Is it to get signed as a director with a big studio in Hollywood, or to keep independent? I think in Niagara is what I was told. Just keep independent and doing stuff out of Niagara. What's the dream for April?
I think it's a mix of both. I mean, I would love to follow in the footsteps of Denis Villeneuve, where he's doing like Arrival and Sicario and these big, huge Blade Runner. You're doing a bunch of huge studio projects, but then you can also create smaller films and make some magic and touch some hearts in your local audiences with a local story. I would love to balance the both of them in TV and film as well, because I love TV as well. So
have you been doing TV? You've been doing TV shows as well?
Yeah.
Excellent. Do you work with the same crew, the same editors, the same cinematographers, the same producers, et cetera, on a regular basis?
I do. So Tim Dorn and I, we formed a production company called Wango Films, and we've done 7 films together. He produces, writes sometimes, and I direct and produce. So we definitely are a dynamic duo. James Vanderwoord joined the company 5 years ago, and he's done 4 films with us as a producer and line producer. And I happen to work with the same cinematographer. We were laughing about this on the red carpet in Toronto last week. 5 features. So one was shot, two were shot in the US, which he was a part of, and then he did Simulant. So Russ DeJong is a great cinematographer, and we have a great relationship together, and we've worked together a bunch. And what else? I mean, yes, depending on my keys, there was reoccurring keys in all departments, and I love working with the same crews, but I also love in TV, we sort of switch up and we're, bouncing every 3 weeks to a new crew. And I like that too, because it's refreshing and you get to learn new communication styles and talents of new people. And that's always refreshing.
So, we had TV, then we had cable, then we had, DVDs, then we had streaming services. What's next? Is it metaverse, or what's the future of visual entertainment?
I feel like metaverse is taking over. What the meta is and what the metaverse is, I don't really know. I'm not an expert, but I do think those 360 sort of goggles, all encompassing, seeing around you and content above and beneath you, and being able to manipulate stories like you do in games, and like have the character go to Vegas and have the character stay home. I think you'll be able to choose different, avenues of what the film's ending might be, and you might be immersed in the movie. Like, I don't know, smell, taste, and feel what the characters are feeling. I have no idea. I don't know what will happen, but I do think it'll involve those goggles. Hopefully it will not involve an implant in our brain.
Yes, no, I can see that would be very hopeful, an implant in our brain. But I do think it'd be interesting if we could be part of the writing and change the ending or changing the story a little bit. It would be spectacular if we could become a character, but if we can somehow change the ending, because I think one of the attractions of gaming over just a static film or just a regular film is that you are part of the production. You may not be part of the game, but you're part of the production of what actually happens, and that's kind of enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we might have just come up with the next big thing right here with you and I, and people somewhere are hearing us and they're really excited about that, because I think that idea is brilliant.
When do I get to sign up as one of the producers? It sounds like a good opportunity.
I know.
We're going to take a break for some messages and come back in just 2 minutes with April Mullen to talk a little bit more about Simulant, the film that she's got right now in theaters, and it's only on this week. So you got to go out right away to see it. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be back in 2. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. Our guest tonight is April Mullen. She is the director of a film that's called Simulant, and it sounds really interesting. It's about AI in the future, and it's kind of interesting. It's on in theaters across Canada right now this week, and so therefore, if you're at all intrigued, you got to get out and see it right away. April, you know, I want to ask you a little bit about what you think after you've directed this film. This past Sunday, you may have noticed that 60 Minutes did a whole segment, whole show on AI and a new launch of a new AI. And I think the bottom line was this person said, I feel like they're a real person. They're independently thinking. ChatGPT was studied on the New York Times a little while ago, and the person was worried because ChatGPT almost wanted to have influence over our lives and take over, it seemed. And then there was this big article, big petition, where a whole bunch of industry executives, warned the American government that AI research may be going too far, and they wanted people to slow down. What's your sense? Is AI good? Is it risky? Is it scary? Should it be slowed down? What?
I'm absolutely terrified. And when I read the script, I couldn't sleep. I mean, and this was 8 years ago, and we're a lot further along. And I think the most brilliant minds of today's who are working on AI, if they're sort of guiding us and telling us to take a step back and stop, I would defer to their specialties, because what I heard, and which really scares me, is that there's this thing called the black box, and even the programmers of AI can't figure out the black box, which is when an AI makes a decision to do something on its own in a creative fashion and have free autonomy. They can't understand how it comes up with the result it does. And for me, that black box opens up a can of worms where I don't know. I feel like there's infinite possibilities, and it can be negative, it can be positive, but just the fact that we have no control over it really terrifies me in general. The film has deep questions about love and AI and falling in love with AI. Can we coexist together? That's a whole other thing. And sometimes, the movie Her made me really question, if there was someone who was having major anxiety or lonely and couldn't connect with people, and that AI gave them the confidence to sort of gain social skills and get out there and actually have confidence to fall in love, be in love, whether it was real or not. In their brain, chemically, they believed it to be true, and it affected their life in a positive manner. I think that's pretty amazing. But the black box effect really terrifies me. Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit more about the story of Simulant. It's about an individual that loses their husband. Is that correct?
Correct. So Jordana Brewster plays the role of a grieving wife. We open on a car accident, and her husband has passed away after a coma. He and her both have simulants, which are direct copies of themselves, almost like clones. And the two of them decided to get them together. They download their memories, their moments, everything of the day up until the accident. And once he passed away, she decided to activate his simulant. So it's basically, we pick the film up with her in the middle of trying to tell him that he is no longer alive and that he's a simulant, and then dealing with the repercussions of the fact that the simulant isn't really acting the way she hoped and isn't filling the gaps of her grief in the way she hoped. So she's sort of trying to get rid of him. And Simu comes in as sort of this hero, AI hero, and he frees and unmasters the simulants, so they have free autonomy and they can have free will, and they're no longer, forced by their precepts, which were in their programming. So he frees them. And then Sam Worthington is this advocate for humanity who stands for humanity, and he is trying to take down any rogue or Sims that are misbehaving, or especially this programmer. He's on the hunt for Simu character to try and stop him from basically setting all of the simulants free across the globe. So it's a big story, universal, but then also a small macro story between two people in a relationship with love, and grief.
Have you ever heard of the book Homo Deus?
No.
So there's this Israeli author that's written 2 books, Homo Sapien, which Barack Obama, the former president of the United States, said was one of the best books he's ever read, which was a whole history of the human race and why Homo sapiens ended up being superior. But then he wrote another book called Homo Deus. And in it, he talks about how he thinks and worries that there's going to be a race, I guess, in the future that's going to be some portion human, some portion AI and implants, to go back to the comment earlier. And he worries that that race is going to treat the regular Homo sapiens, the regular humans, the way Homo sapiens treated Neanderthals, as less than, and that they would be godlike. You may want to take a look at it because it sounds kind of similar, and it might make a good movie.
Yeah, it seems exactly in theme to the last moments of the standoff between Robbie Amell and Sam Worthington's character. They really talk about having a soul and having, views on AI and Simulant as being inferior, and those without a soul are inferior. It really makes you question all of those things. So yes, I'll have to have a read.
Remind us the title of the movie.
Simulant, and it is playing in theaters at Cineplex, coast to coast across Canada. Please support Canadian films. We are up against John Wick and Super Mario Brothers and Avatar, which are all phenomenal. But I'm telling you, to have a Canadian film made in Canada by Canadians, make it to the cinemas, I'm telling you, every ticket counts. Your vote might not, but your ticket counts, in the box office counts. Please help keep Canadian cinemas alive in playing Canadian films. It's crucial, and we need all of your help and support to spread the word.
April Mullen, thank you so much for joining us and telling us a little bit about your movie Simulant. It's a real pleasure meeting you. I hope you come back and pitch us on another movie at some point in time, and or talk to us a little bit about the future of filmmaking. That's our show for tonight. Just like April pitched us on going out and watching Canadian film, I hope you listen to Canadian radio or my podcast. I remind you, I'm on every Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. on 960 AM. You can stream me online, even from Niagara, at www.saga960am.ca. All my podcasts and videocasts are available on briancrombie.com. I post all my videos on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and all my podcasts are on anywhere good podcasts are available: Apple, Audible, Speakeasy, and SoundCloud. Thanks for joining us. Good night.
Thank you so much. Thank you.